Testing this angle for a little chat. Whether anybody hops on or answers any questions or not, I thought I'd make a video and I thought I'd try to do it as a live. Maybe it's a better way to do it. I don't know. Sometimes I'm a little bit more conversational, a little bit more fluid, especially if I have a couple questions pop in. But I wanted to chat a little bit about one, the new course and some new material up on the Art of Release Skool community. If you're interested in any of the things that I've talked about that I bring up, feel free to go join the Art of Release Skool community, free to join. You get a couple free modules of training. I'm trying to grow the community for anyone who wants to give me feedback on any content that they think that I should make around this topic. We answer questions. I answer questions typically in the DMs over there. You can be a little bit more conversational, a little bit free to engage in some back and forth to help develop your practice or get some insight on how this mechanism of internal release works and how to release the things that inhibit you from experiencing deep peace and being able to, in a moment and cumulatively over time, experience this deep release of the thing that causes stress to stick to us. It allows us to become deeply calm, far more present, easily able to recover from stress, overwhelm, burnout, dissolves away, melts away, anxiety, depression, all that stuff, and is a great way to deepen your yoga practice, really get into meditation proper that goes beyond the mind, beyond just mental level techniques and self-help psychology and imagination, visualization, things like this. We utilize a body opening process in the foundational training in order to open the body and get the feel of release. We train release in the body. We train the fascia and we condition and elasticate the body with our dissolve yoga process and various you could say that we use traditional postures and stretches, things that you might recognize or have done before if you haven't done much with your body before, things that will be both challenging and intriguing and fascinating, as well as deeply relieving in the way that they allow the body to become open and spacious. And it's an extremely enjoyable process when you get into it because when we release, it always ends up allowing the mind to feel more and more at ease, more and more calm, full of tranquility, equanimity. And even when we have a challenge with the body, like if our body, and I've gone through this, I've had injuries and illness and all these things, and I deeply feel for and work with people one on one and in groups where you have old injuries, you have things that you've been stressed out by, overwhelmed by, trauma, this word that's really big in the, somatic scene, in the mind body scene these days. People are stuck on this stuff. When you're stuck in something in the mind, stuck in something on the body, at the core, beneath all the biohacking and the, neurological vagus nerve reset, like all of these things to tinker with and use, they're good, they're fine, uh, opening up the body, different forms of exercise, different forms of breath work, they can work. Some of them are great. Some of them might be too overstimulating for some people. And when you find certain things out there that are going to point you towards wellness and wholeness, ideally in the end, you want to find something that's not just stimulating or pushing your body in a certain direction. You're not just trying to unconsciously flip a switch or use some sort of method or technique. Eventually, you want something that goes deeper, something that transforms your being at the core, right? You get past all these layers that you're trying to cope with and manage and find some relief from. And you want them to melt away and reveal the truth of your being, something that resides consistently underneath that. And this is what we do with dissolve therapy. We, in our body work, in the training we do one on one and in groups with people, we use our approach to the body. We use the body opening process in the way that it develops the fascia and opens up the roads or the channels of the body. We utilize our focus on the body to train the mind to release. Because what we want to do is we want to cultivate something that in Buddhism they would call the knowing quality. And to attain a recognition experience, and I don't want to say to cultivate or to find because it's always there, right? We know experience. How do we know our body, right? How do we move our body? We don't have to think about it. We don't have to like intellectualize the process. We don't need to know that there's nerves in here. We don't need to know what fascia is called. We don't need to know about all of the different names of the muscles in order to know that tension, contraction, when we are stressed, when we're overwhelmed, when we feel shitty, right? That we feel trapped. It feels sticky. We feel, what's the word? Opaque. What's the other word? We're obstructed by that. This contraction that we habitually act from in day to day life, moment to moment. This type of habitual contraction is the thing that is the precursor to stress. It's the precursor to the nervous system dysregulation that we experience. It's the precursor to any time we have ever felt horrible. The moment our attention became distorted, the moment we overexerted ourselves, the moment we acted from reactionary habitual contraction, we, whatever it is we're experiencing, we can label it an emotion, we can label it a thought, we can label the pain. It doesn't matter what we call it. Anytime we've ever leaned towards the negative or been destructive or, felt fear, we have been contracted. The mind closed in on itself. The body becomes tight, closed off. Our heart closes off. The body guards itself, right? And our somatic memory has layers and layers of these. They're like little fists in our body, right? And these fists obstruct. If my shoulder is tense here, the blood can't flow, right? If my shoulders are tense, my ribs are tense, my diaphragm's tense, I'm not breathing properly. Therefore, I'm automatically, even from the somatic physiological level, if I'm not breathing properly, my body is panicking, my nervous system is starting to become overstimulated. I'm going into fight or flight mode. This exacerbates the feedback loop between the body and mind, and we become stuck in these patterns of contraction. Different sources of contraction for different reasons, but contraction nonetheless. Contraction all the same, right? So in dissolve therapy, we look at the truth underlying our stress, most of, if not all, unnecessary suffering. And this doesn't mean pain. We might not be able to end a certain source of pain. If I break my arm, it's going to hurt. There's going to be a certain amount of potential stress there, but my ability to step back from that, not dissociate, not fight back, not run away, right? But to just know that pain and that I am not that pain, right? It sounds rather esoteric sometimes, but it's quite simple that if we have a sensation arise, in the same way that if we have a thought arise or if something happens, some sort of phenomenon occurs in our reality, right? We can, from this clinging, this holding, this attachment that forms, we can have some sort of identification with it, like, oh, I thought this or I felt this, therefore I'm bad or I'm wrong, and I'm a horrible person, and a story develops, right? A thought comes up, and all of a sudden, that seed of thought, we nourish it with the light of our attention, the light of our awareness, and it becomes a train of thought. A sensation comes up, we label it an emotion, and all of a sudden, it's my anger. I feel this way, and it's not to not take responsibility for our actions. It's actually a deep, deep taking of responsibility by recognizing that we have reacted, we have responded in a certain way, we've engaged with, identified with something, and that in that way we've acted from that contraction, right? And we've added another layer on top of who we are, really at our core, our essence, our soul. Every time we react, there's another layer, another layer, another layer. We built up this identification, this story. And all of these layers, years and years down the road, end up with us having this burden, this weight that we carry. And it feels horrible. It weighs on us physically. And like that's why I think it's why old people look like this, right? I had a question come up and I'm doing this on my phone, so I'll have to figure out how to do this on my phone. Oh, is it gone? Aquatic philosophia. Feel free to reword that or participate in any way that feels good, to you. But all of these burdens, right? All this weight that we carry, it distorts us. We become habitually closed down, and we begin to view the world through this lens that is contracted and therefore distorted and tense. It's like every part of us, because the mind reflects the body reflects the mind, our whole being, the nerves, the fascia, the tissue, the breath, the quality of our mind itself becomes full of ill will towards ourselves and others, right? We lack warmth. Like there's a lot of language around this I find interesting, is that like we're either warm and open, right? And like it's funny in Chinese medicine, in Qigong, and in internal alchemy and Taoism, they say the quality of qi is warm, right? And when we feel warm, like when we are open and spacious, the blood flows, that life flows through us, and it allows us to become warm. When our heart is open, we consider it a warm heart, not a cold, closed, contracted heart. And people can make all the excuses they want about, it's like, oh, I needed to protect myself and I need to do this. Yes, the body is trying to protect itself. Of course, the body didn't feel safe, and that's why there's a trauma response and all those things. And we can engage with all the self-help and the psychology and the talk therapy all we want, but in the end, and I have nothing against coping and managing, we need to cope and manage. We need to dip our toes in and out of letting go in order to acclimate our system to it. That's why we have the body opening process. And I recommend to people that when they have a lot they're holding on to and they engage with this stuff, to dip your toes into it and start by warming up and by doing things that feel good and healthy, and develop yourself, become stronger, develop your lifestyle, develop your habits in a way that are constructive, that turn you into someone who feels a little better about what you're doing in your life. But when you want to go deeper, it's so cliche for people to talk about letting go, but it's often intellectualized. It's not made tangible. It's not made real to them. Because when you let go and you really practice various practices which train the body and mind, and that harmonize and integrate our being and develop this internal mechanism of release, the whole mind is reorganized. And in a moment, you can feel, if you really get this quality of release, You get the taste of it, you get the feel of it, you cultivate this skill. As soon as you do it, you it's I can say nothing more than you taste peace. You feel at peace. There is nothing to fix because the things that you were trying to cope with, manage, fix, reorient, to tell a different story about previously, those things have fallen away. There's that question. Thank you for the question. Describe it. Sorry, I have to have my finger up on here for it to stay up, I think. Describe it specifically acting right now, or dissolve something successfully as demo. If you don't have any personal things, maybe have a client there to reference specific problems and openings. Really abstract. Yeah, cool. Oh, sorry, I have my camera just kind of settled here. So usually we act with the body. If you want, give me an example of something. Your name, Aquatic Philosophia, I think. If you want, you can give me an example. If you don't happen to give me an example in a moment or two, I'll sip some tea and then I'll give myself as an example. And I can describe something from where I'm at in my practice, or I can describe something that I would recommend for a beginner, something that I would be working with someone who's just dipping their toes into it. Mid back tension. I've dealt with it. Who hasn't? So something that I'll try to make some room here so I can move around. So something I kind of mentioned is that it's not always what we do, it's how we do it. That's different. So something that I did for a long time, and that's a common body opening method in Tai Chi, but we also do it in our Dissolve Yoga program, is a lot of people have practiced like a forward hanging bend where you either start with the head, you let the head hang, eventually you let the body. There's a couple variations of this, but I'm looking to find this C shape. So you can see the rounding of my back here. The two variations to quickly go over it is that I hinge at the hip and I go down and I let my head hang. Or I start from the very top vertebrae and I find, that's the visual example there, but I'm going to describe the application of the principles for a moment. When I find tactilely, very tangibly, the sensation, the direct knowing, you might say, I'm not visualizing it, I'm not trying to force a stretch. And there are layers to this throughout the process. But when I find the vertebrae, any joint that I might work with, when I'm doing this, I'm sliding this arm bone away from my shoulder. I'm creating space. I'm not pushing. I can push. If I push with my muscles, notice how that looks kind of different. If I push with my muscles, this is how most people stretch. It's like a static stretch, and I might do one of these, or I might put my hand on a wall and kind of stretch this area of muscle, and I'll feel it in that area. And if I approach that a little bit differently, and I open my hand, find the elastic quality in my hand, and I push my hand away from my arm, I can feel the stretch through my whole arm, from my hand right into my shoulder. And so I'm engaging the fascia. I'm letting go of the muscular tension. And it's like if I was lifting a weight, I'd be contracting a muscle. I'd be contracting my biceps. So the tension, the stretch, whatever I'm doing is isolated there. If I go a little deeper and I soften a bit, then I start to engage the fascia. And if I soften even more, if I really allow, for me, I would soften my eyes. In Dissolve, we associate softening the eyes with softening the way we're perceiving. Because often the nervous system is kind of locked up from our sensory input, both tactilely, visually, auditory. All the sensory input comes in, and we only have a certain amount of bandwidth, which, again, that contraction, the contraction of our perception, the contraction of the body, the contraction of the channels of the flow of information that are moving through our body, moving through our senses, moving through our nervous system. We want to soften to open. There are layers of the content in my community and in the mini courses where we talk about softening to release, releasing to open. So the beginning of release is softening. So I might soften my shoulder, and I literally can begin to soften the flesh so much by not just trying to stretch. I'm not trying to push my arm away. I'm softening to the point where I feel my flesh hang off of my bones, and then I slide my bone away from the shoulder. If you see that happening there. Giving this whole example because it's an obvious kind of example. The spine is a little bit more tricky, but same principle applies. If we really try to force the spine open, there are ways we can kind of push the head up in a way, and that might help at first. I can push my head open away this way. I can round my back and squeeze. I could squeeze a ball, like a medicine ball or something like that. I could do this in a way where it's very physical. I'm not engaging my attention much. I'm just doing something with my body. And that can help get the blood flowing, can help warm us up, but it's got a glass ceiling to it. It's going to help get us going a little bit, but it's not going to penetrate the cause of the tension. So when I was talking about the forward hanging bend, I want to soak my mind in a way that I'm listening. We use this word listening skill to really point to the fact that we want to be attentive. We want to, again, I soften my eyes. And for me, as soon as I soften my eyes, my breath changes. The quality of my nervous system changes. And when I let it spread through my brain, through my skull to the back of my neck, especially if I do something like open my hands, because of the connection I've developed through my body, I open my hands and my spine just whoop, opened. And I developed this connection, especially to the back and the mid back, by sliding the bones away. Sliding the bones away. I work towards that by opening, softening, allowing how my attention is touching the body, how my mind is relating to the body to become harmonious. So when my mind could be doing anything, and I could just do this. But when I soften my eyes, I soften my attention itself, I notice my mind begins to soften, my mind begins to become more spacious. As my mind becomes more spacious, more still, more at ease, how the quality of mind is interacting with the body is of paramount importance, because the mind is like a fluid. There is like a substance to attention, right? And when the mind becomes very intentional, it becomes super hyper focused, narrowed. Why do we say that we get tunnel vision? Why do we say that the mind narrows? What happens when you look at a screen for too long? You're inside a room for too long. You got stuck inside of a box or a closet or something. The mind would go, oh, we feel trapped. We feel claustrophobic. The space that we're in doesn't matter if we practice releasing the mind. If the mind was vast and spacious and the body was therefore deeply at ease, it began to reflect that spaciousness. Notice how when I do that, my arm is just opening. I'm not lifting, I'm not holding up my arm with tension. My arm is like suspended. My bones are sliding out in a way. And because I have this release in my body, it's feeding back into my mind. My mind's releasing more. My mind just very gently touching this area, soaking into this area like fluid into a sponge. My body reflects that. And so that practice with the spine, I would want to move into that position of like moving my head, leaning my head forward. I did see the extra question there. I'll check in a moment. I would want to do this in a way where I'm not just, head down, stretch, do this, do that. I'm releasing, I'm softening until I find that openness. And then I'm letting gravity take my head a little bit. As soon as I find that little bit of stretch, as soon as you feel any stretch, there's part of your nervous system, part of your mind that will fight it, especially if there's old injury, there's pain, there's just habitual tension there. As soon as your mind goes there, it'll either get kicked out, it'll start trying to imagine things or create a story, or it goes in there and it goes, that hurts, that sucks, right? And we either try to fight it, we try to force through it, we try to push it open, which in certain areas of the body, in certain ways, at first I said, we can just warm ourselves up and do physical things and get the blood flowing, which might help get the feeling in there so that we have something to work with. The body becomes a little bit more tangible. But if it's an area we struggle with, we really have to pay attention to that. There's like that contraction, there's a habitual contraction there. When the mind goes to interact with it, the mind will contract. And it's the noticing of this in and of itself that is the essence of the practice. We are developing the knowing quality instead of contracting as soon as we feel tension or stress or pain somewhere. That's the unconscious intention. Again, that word, intention, instead of attention. Not running away, not diverting our focus, not going, fuck, I don't want to do this. I don't want to deal with this. I'm going to go take a pill, drink a drink, smoke, whatever. Right? We're not running away and we're not fighting it. We are becoming attentive, and the quality of attention, this knowing quality, in and of itself, because the intrinsic innate quality of attention is expansive. It is opening. It is like a solvent to that stickiness, that glue. So when we allow ourselves to soften and zoom in, the attention itself, we don't try to zoom in like this. That pain, get rid of it. We soften and zoom in. We allow the mind to come in to that space, soften. So there's this penetrating inwards and this opening simultaneously. It's a very interesting thing. And it's weird. It becomes paradoxical to talk about because I just said, like, there's this going in and out at the same time. We talk a lot like in Tai Chi, yin and yang. Like you penetrate, you sink to become upright. You become settled to rise. There's this downward and upward force. You penetrate in to open outwards. There's effortless effort, action and non-action, doing and non-doing. Very interesting. So I tried to explain a little bit about that transition from intention. I'm just gonna warm up. I'm just gonna do something here to just my attention itself interacting with the body because of the way I've practiced. It reorganizes the tissue. The body reflects that expansiveness of the mind. This is part of the inner mechanism of how you train the body to meditate. A blocked nose. Breathing through your nose in and of itself, like, if you do a little bit of myofascial stuff, if I feel the grip of my skin on skin contact, and I widen, it looks so funny on camera. If I physically open that space in a way where I'm softening as I do it, blocked nose. This thing, this thing, but I'm not just blocking that nostril, I'm pulling down. But when you feel a stretch, any stretch or pressure that you feel will give you feedback, which you can soften in relation to. These things all need to be experienced to get a really, like, sometimes you can hear these things, people who are, you could say someone's like ready to hear it, or someone might be investigating these things and they go, that makes sense. I think I can try that. Otherwise, you really want to get something to practice, which is why I have some of the free training available. Um, you want to get the feel of, especially with the mind, you don't want to try to just release the mind itself at first, maybe because it's intangible. It's like, how do I release my mind? Right? Like, even when I try to think about that, it's like, that doesn't make sense. Is there a simple tool that would amplify my ability to do this? Practice. Practice. Because if you think about it, you're not doing it. And if you can't figure out how to do it, you need the experience. This is why we have one-on-one coaching, group calls, group training, and things like standing practice. Um, if I stand here, you can't see my lower body right now, but oh well. If I bend my knees and let my weight sink into my feet, which in its own right is a challenge. People, when they sometimes hear about standing practice, they're like, well, just stand there. Like, especially if you lift a lot of weights, you do a lot of squats. You're like, it's standing, whatever. But people are programmed, especially if you've, say, done a lot of like heavy weighted squats or whatever. Your legs are doing this. They're gripping, they're contracting. Think of how most people talk about exercise physiology, which there's nothing wrong with. Not saying that there's anything, just because this is kind of a sort of the opposite way to train. Not saying there's anything wrong with it. Regular therapy and regular exercise. But if I sink all my weight, most people, as soon as I try to settle my weight down from up here, from the upper body down through my diaphragm, it can almost make people panic because they're not used to settling their breath. They're not used to letting their weight drop all the way to their center of gravity. But if you have some background in wrestling, martial arts, various things, karate, something like that, judo, you might be used to your center of gravity. And then you want to release from your center of gravity down through your legs. And the whole point of this is not to just relax and collapse, to let the bones collapse in itself, let the posture collapse, or to let the mind, because if the body collapses, the mind has run away from the experience or is fighting back. You're either clinging and tensing to hold yourself up, especially if I begin to really soften my lower body, and you can see I'm sort of sinking down here. I'm just releasing my legs and really allowing my flesh to literally release all excess contraction so that the mass, the weight of my body, like a fluid, pours down into my feet. So it feels like my body is pancaking my feet into the floor. And in our dissolve work, we just call this bear posture. Because if you see how my hands are, they kind of look at it like, kind of start to look like a bear or a gorilla or something like that. But this is a classic Taiji Wuji posture as well. But if I put a timer on for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and I try to sustain this quality of release. I'm melting my flesh off of my skull. I'm letting my shoulders soften, my arms to become heavy. I'm opening so much it literally feels tangibly like my flesh is melting off my bones, but my bones are opening apart from one another. So my waist is sliding down, my head is becoming more and more upright. My body feels like it's expanding and filling out. But at first, this is my legs will burn, my legs will shake. You'll start to get like the, "Ooh," or your legs will just, they'll feel like they're fighting you inside. So the work, the training, the practice would be to continually soften my attention so I can tangibly feel release, 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 softening all around the hips, all through the waist, softening the upper muscles of the legs off of the thigh bones, softening around the knees, softening the calves, softening all the tissue in the feet until the feet are spreading onto the floor, and then softening up through the body, down through the body, but not just a body scan. Some people are kind of like, oh, that's a body scan. It's a little bit different because you want to tangibly release the flesh to hang off of the bone. And if you get that for a minute, you will experience the fight or flight kick in. Part of the you wants to either run away or the contraction comes back. You will go deeper and deeper from, they say, skin depth to flesh depth to bone depth. The deeper you go, the more that at first the external musculature releases. A lot of people can, with a little bit of practice, get that. Then just from the mind coming into this knowing quality, you'll see that very subtly my neck just adjusted there. My mind was kind of in talkie-talkie mode, and just for a moment, I brought the mind in, and the body went, ooh. And it's like, wow, bliss starts to radiate from within in those moments because the mind is releasing. So the tools that get you, I'm back. I think the recording is still going. It's raining very hard outside. I think my internet had a moment. And where was I? Something about the mind and body interacting. The practice is what it's all about because it's a principle. It's not a technique. The techniques or the methods are an expression of the principle. A lot of people might have had experience with, like, if you pull down on your eardrums or breathe in a 4-6 box breathing pattern, or this number of inhales for this many seconds, and then you pause this many seconds, those things can like stimulate the body or push the body in a certain direction. Like, I think one of the best example of these levels of contrivance, which can work, not saying it doesn't work, but it doesn't work in the same way as this stuff works. We're looking to remove contrivance, to release unconscious intention. We only use the body as a litmus test because when the body releases, we experience the mind release. And when we can recognize the mind releasing, then we can step back into awareness itself. And from stepping back into awareness itself to where we're not running away, we're not fighting, we are simply aware of, this causes this deep level of integration to occur because of this level of attentiveness. If there is a sensation, rising emotion, a certain level of stress, an old pattern in the somatic memory of the body, an old memory, an old story psychologically, things that we're working through that are coming up or that we're dealing with. If we can have this level of attentiveness, not as some sort of method or technique, but as the way we are learning to habitually relate with our mind and body, this level of attentiveness, this listening skill, in and of itself can be applied to things to develop methods or technique. It's how a lot of internal gung fu works. It's how our dissolve yoga works. It's how meditation deepens naturally, you could say, because we are allowing this attentiveness, this listening skill, to not just be something that we're doing, it's becoming who we are. We are listening. We're not doing listening, right? We are non doing. We're subtracting. We're not adding. In all of these practices, the practice is a vessel, a tool to practice release. Can I do this with less and less intervention, less and less interference, right? If I was going to hold this weight, can I hold this weight with less and less excess contraction? If I was contemplating a thought that happens to arise, can I perceive this thought? Can I remain attentive with this thought with less and less holding, clinging, especially if it's something that comes up unconsciously, something that comes up at the back of our head, something that all of a sudden possesses our mind in some way? It's the essence of vipassana, self inquiry, these types of more advanced meditation, which are not a technique. They can be applied moment to moment, day to day, which is what's cool about this stuff. When you train the body in this way, you get the nervous system, the breath all coherent, harmonized. You get the quality of the mind deeply oriented to this process of internal release. Then what begins to occur is that you begin to perceive things as they are with less and less distortion, more and more clarity. Because what that reaction is in and of itself, when a thought comes up, an emotion comes up, sensation comes up, is you recognize if you're doing this in relation to it, fighting, yeah, running away, attraction, aversion, right? Desire and lust versus like it's like that greed and desire thing versus hate and ill will. You're not having any of it because when you release, you can see clearly if that thing is messing with you, if it's you're causing your being to become darker and more obstructed and contracted and trapped, or if that thing is nourishing life, really. And I'm thinking of putting a whole section of content around yang sheng. I've done a lot of qigong practice, internal martial arts practice, and yang sheng cultivates qualities that allow you to move closer to how you can naturally become more like this in your day-to-day life. You eat in a way where you're softening and releasing in relation to how you're holding the food, how you're making the food, how you're interacting with objects in your environment, how you're interacting with your body. The whole internal arts or inner arts practices are harmonizing the way that your attention or your mind is interacting with the body, right? And becoming increasingly skillful in moving and mobilizing the internal tissues and aspects of the body and in generating different types of chemistry within the body through this reorientation of the mind towards truth, towards your inner being, your essence, the thing that's at the center of the bullseye, the 0 point, right? If our levels of stress, I think I've mentioned in a live stream before, like everything that we do from contraction and a negative habit or something that stresses us out or messes us up in some way is like a layer of stuff that when we continually react to it and we identify with it and it becomes like who we are, our ego, our sense of self. It's like a layer that occludes, that distorts who we are at our in our essence, at our core. And when we can let go of that contraction, the awareness, we soften, we open, and we penetrate. We begin to dissolve inwards back towards that original state. And when we can touch that and absorb into that, this is the best part of the practice. The thing that I want everybody to be able to experience. The thing that if you're watching this or if you listen to this back, the thing I would wish to share with everyone is that when you really get the feel for this, you really get this quality of release going, when you touch that original nature, the level of peace, the level of ease, of contentment. Doesn't matter if I'm uncomfortable in my body. I could be in pain. A thought could come, a sensation could come. I could even get stuck in it, but I'd know my way back. The orientation to this is so deep that either if it's not too strong, it's like water off a duck's back. And if something gets to me, something overwhelms me at some point, no worries. I know my way back because I'm not orienting my sense of self towards all these layers of ephemeral sort of, thoughts that come and go, stories that loop around, emotions that come and go. I'm oriented towards something that is constant and true and eternal, everlasting. Doesn't go anywhere. This knowing quality. I'm always able to sit back into this awareness, and this awareness, this essence of who I am, whether you want to call it the soul, the spirit, whatever. There are kind of layers to that depth as well. And people talk about emptiness, right? And in this case, this is the core mechanic or the essence of emptiness. You are emptying yourself of contraction, emptying yourself of excess tension, stress, interference, contrivance, obstruction, right? It doesn't mean you can't think and do things. It doesn't mean you can't act. It means that you see clearly, that you act from your essence, that you're able to continually come back into the core of your being. And when you rest in that, you absorb into that, you soak into that, a lot of people talk about building qi and qigong or um, cultivation and yogic stuff and connecting with the divine. Like that stuff just happens. And if there's some real authentic methods and some skills and some good teachers you have that help teach those things, they come along easier. All of the self-development comes along so much easier because all the resistance falls away. All the meditation stuff, all of that stuff doesn't work for people because meditation actually relies on you as a person having transformed your body and mind to be able to meditate. Just like a football player has a football body, a martial artist has a martial arts body, right? You actually have to transform the mind, the quality of mind and the quality of your body to the quality of mind and body that can, if you sit and you're just sitting and breathing and you are aware, you become meditative. If you continue to go into that process, you just go down this rabbit hole of absorption. And you're in. Can't stay there forever right now because I'll start getting this stupid grin on my face and forget about everything. And then I'll be on here sitting quietly for 2 hours and then I'll open my eyes again. But it's insanely pleasurable. I stop being able to speak coherently if I go too deep into it, right? So I'm kind of bobbing on the surface here with you guys. But there's nowhere to go, nothing to do. I am not running away. I'm not avoiding. I'm not dissociating, right? I'm not imagining anything. I'm not contriving anything. I'm not creating any sort of phenomenon. I'm not imagining any Buddha. I'm not imagining any light or rainbows or fire or anything like that. It is I'm in. No side glances. At that point, you and the absolute getting to be like this, right? And your mind reorients around that experience because our mind, it's very interesting. Our mind, our body, our nervous system, they reflect and they structure things. They create little internal experiences based on what we're aware of, right? They model things. This is how somatic empathy works. You see someone get hurt, and it's like, oh, if you have any, if you're alive at all and you care at all about people, it's like, oh, you see someone get hurt, you see a kid get hurt, you're even watching a show, you see someone get hurt, or somebody's car goes into the water, and you hold your breath. It's like you cringe, right? This is what cringe is. It's why we get embarrassed. It's why we get anxious. It's why we're afraid, right? Because our internal experience models things and goes, oh, I might experience that happen to someone else, whatever it is. And then we start living by those things. We begin, anxiety is like, oh, all these things might happen. And then we let our nervous system get all mucked up by that. Our flesh tightens and winds up around these things, and we let ourselves live from that state. That's just craziness, right? And this, the essence of this, because it's so simple that it becomes hard to explain because it's right under your nose. Would you rather live like this, or would you rather live like this? And it's not just about collapsing. Anyone can relax, and maybe not anyone. You can be better at relaxing. You can be kind of unable to relax, but you can just collapse exhausted and relax. You could exercise a ton and then relax, but it's the way your attention is relating to the experience. Once you reside in that knowing quality, you could have stress coming up, you could have pain, you could have thoughts trying to come in. You could have, oh, that old story or what. And it can't, if you're really orienting towards this truth, it can't penetrate you anymore. It can't get to you anymore. And if it does kind of hit and like sting and get to you, it's like, whoa, you really kind of, that's a training moment. That's some of the work, right? And all of a sudden you step back, you soften in relation to that thing, and all of a sudden it fades away. It is no longer stuck to you. It has less power over you. And there was no magic technique. It's the way that you are. You have trained your inner being itself to recognize how the quality of mind shifted and grabbed a hold of something, how the body itself mirrored something somebody else was doing, mirrored your thoughts about an experience, modeled some type of somatic memory you were holding in relation to the past, modeled something that you were daydreaming of about the future. And you start softening and releasing and opening in relation to these things. The more advanced steps are becoming empty and becoming full, softening to release to open, being one of these kind of yin and yang things, becoming so released that you open. You don't just relax and collapse, you let go of everything in the way of this, oh, this spaciousness radiating through your body to where the mind empties out of unconscious intention, empties out of contrivance, of stress, of clinging. And because of that complete lack of contrivance, contraction, and interference, life can flourish in you. Chi, you could say. This level of fullness. Fullness. You become full of life because you are organizing the mind and body in a way that you are sealing leakages. You're not acting in a way that wastes your energy. You're not arranging your body in a way that is wasting your energy. You're not breathing in a way that is wasting your energy. And you are orienting yourself internally in a way that fills you. You are emptying of things that are obstructing life, and you are filling with life continually the more and more you go into this process. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to check for any questions here to finish it off. Thank you. Great explanation. You're very welcome. Thank you. Yes. Yes. So if anybody has joined in here, if anybody is still watching, thank you. Maybe it's the few people that watched that commented. If you want to say anything else before I hop off, now is the time. I've been on here almost an hour, except for when I blinked out. My internet blinked out for a minute. If you think I should do more of these, let me know, because I will. I kind of like this way of talking in a live a little bit more than recording a video. I feel a little bit weird and contrived, even just trying to record a video. So I either keep them short and sweet, or I try to make them conversational. And I'm trying to open up my community to more people who are interested in the practice, to become a little bit more conversational and to share. If anybody's gone this far with me, or you tune into this video, I would like to invite you formally into the community. It is free to join. There are some paid tiers afterwards. The middle tier being to get some more advanced material, basically because it's like paying for a weekly or monthly class that we get into. The more people are there, the more people who want it, the more classes I'll do. But you also are paying for the more advanced material. You have to do some of the beginner stuff to get a feel for it before I throw more intense stuff at you and more intangible esoteric stuff. And then the other tier would be for a like one-on-one monthly sort of group coaching thing where there's ongoing support. And I might make that into a group cohort thing where if there's a group of people that want to invest in themselves over the course of a month, 3 months, whatever it is that works, I might be able to design it so that some people can do a month, some people can do 3 months, whatever it is that works for you. But if you want to go deeper than you have, if you want to develop a deep resilience and a capacity to have this like deep, amazing peace, and to make your body feel a lot more supple and elastic, to develop some inner power and develop the way you can apply this in daily life and get some support with that. It's really about developing a container where I can interact with, maybe there'll be a handful to a dozen people who are in it for like, it's got to be at least like 6 weeks to 3 months type of thing. But to really get some support and some deep insight and to connect both one-on-one and with the group with me, this is my official invite, because I've done some practice runs of this. I've invited a few people in, and I've done some one-on-one works over time with people, and it's a couple small group things, and it's been beautiful. And the things that happen with people, it's the good stuff, right? Anybody who really gets this stuff is like, why like some of these other things I was doing was great, but like why do people not know about this? Why is this not known? Right? It is the inner mechanism that makes all things good and beautiful and juicy. It's how you see truth. The truth, the light, the way. It's good, right? So thank you for joining in. If there's no more questions, Camilica, come join us. I think I put the link for the Skool group in the description of this live video. But I've been here for an hour. I'm going to hop off. That's just about my limit here. I'm going to do some podcast episodes. I'm going to invite some other dissolve practitioners in. I'm going to have some conversations with people who are other types of practitioners maybe. I'm going to maybe have another chat with my the main guy, my teacher, Andy. And we're going to talk about long pour and some other stuff and practice and life and the nuances of the energetics of these things and lots of other cool stuff. So thank you for joining me, and take care, everyone. Have an excellent evening. MCS 351, whoever you are, come join us. And thank you. Peace be with you, my friends. Take care. How do I even turn this off? I am not a tech wizard.